That's when I noticed a man who had been inside the club was now following me outside. Since my hotel was within walking distance and I wasn't intoxicated, walking back seemed like a reasonable choice. However, as I reached a traffic light and realized the same man was still tailing me, I knew something was amiss. Solo travelers, what is the craziest, creepiest and most intense traveling adventure you have ever experienced? Story 1. Drugged and robbed in Turkey, sharing my experience to possibly help others. I'm a solo female traveler and fortunate to have traveled to many countries. This was my first trip to Turkey, Middle East. Because I frequently travel alone, I'm vigilant about my surroundings and try not to put myself in compromising situations. But as a human, we all make mistakes and at times let our guard down. I was at a cafe alone sipping coffee when a mixed group of French nationals sat at the table next to me and started chatting me up. We had an enjoyable conversation, and as I was leaving, one of the men in the group mentioned he didn't want to go on a tour with his friends the next day and asked me if I was free for lunch. We agreed to meet back at the cafe at 1 p.m. the following day. After meeting at the cafe, the next day, we walked across the street to a restaurant and had a pleasant lunch. During lunch, he insisted on ordering 2 glasses of white wine to enjoy with our meal. The waiter brought the wine to our table, and nothing seemed unusual. I know better than to leave drinks unattended, so I never left the table. It was 1 glass of white wine, and since the waiter brought the wine to table, I thought nothing of it. By the end of the meal, I started feeling more drunk than expected from a single glass, but chalked it up to elevation and not having drank any alcohol in a while. As we left the restaurant, my impairment significantly increased. I was confused and had trouble walking. He offered to walk me to my hotel. My judgment was already impaired and getting worse by the minute. I agreed to have him help me get back to my hotel. Once we arrived, I unlocked the door and went straight to the bathroom as I was now nauseous and started vomiting. He must have followed me into my room, proceeded to go through my luggage, and stole my credit cards. When I came out of the bathroom, I noticed my stuff was strewn about and immediately knew I was drugged and robbed. Whatever I was drugged with caused my pupils to dilate, so in addition to being significantly impaired, I was unable to read anything. I tried to call my bank, but it was impossible as I literally couldn't read anything. Given my impaired state, I also didn't think about asking hotel to help. Impairment and dilation subsided enough about 5 hours later for me to contact banks, but by that time thousands of dollars had been charged. All I can think is the waiter was involved. I keep going over all the events I can remember, trying to determine what I could have done differently. Never did I think I would be drugged and robbed in the middle of the afternoon. Regardless, I'm trying to reframe this experience as it could have been much worse. First and foremost, thankfully I was not physically assaulted. My passport and phone were on my person and not stolen. The main result is the inconvenience of canceling accounts and hopefully getting fraudulent charges refunded. This was a recent event, so I'm still working through it, but I'm confident there will be helpful lessons learned as I continue my travels. Stay safe in this unpredictable world. Update. First, words cannot express the gratitude I feel towards this community for your kindness and support. I really didn't know what to expect when I posted, as I'm not a frequent contributor to Reddit. I do want to make a statement to those who question traveling to Turkey or Middle East. I spent a month in Istanbul and met many kind, wonderful Turkish citizens. There are bad actors in every country. Generalizations can be dangerous. We are all humans first, and we have no control over which country we are born into. The ability to travel is a privilege, and those of us who have it should aim for being responsible tourists. To the Turkish citizens who may read this, please know I have no negative feelings towards your country, and my apologies for not fully thinking through the unintended consequences of my post. Thankfully, my PCR test was negative. I flew out of the Cappadocia region this morning and am currently awaiting my flight this afternoon to Germany. I feel like I'm still in a very heightened state of alertness, awareness. I'm exhausted, stressed, so looking forward to resting and continuing to reflect on all that transpired past 48 hours. Story 2. Robbery and carjacking attempt in Delhi. My wife and I were taking a car ride from Delhi to Agra, and along the way on a fairly bare stretch of highway, a crazy guy jumped out in front of us with a pair of scissors held up to another guy's neck, trying to get us to stop or else he would kill the guy. When he realized we weren't stopping, he threw the man in front of our car and started slashing at the car. We barely dodged the guy thrown in front of the car and made it out safe. We had no idea what was going on, and it freaked us out quite a bit. Story 3. Stalker after a night out in central Sydney. I wanted to share a chilling experience I had in central Sydney recently that serves as a stark reminder of why we should always trust our instincts and prioritize our safety. Last night, I found myself at an underground pub in central Sydney, enjoying a social event dedicated to travelers. As the clock struck 2 a.m., I decided it was time to leave. I sat down outside, near the bar security, to catch some fresh air after a few drinks. That's when I noticed a man who had been inside the club was now following me outside. Since my hotel was within walking distance and I wasn't intoxicated, walking back seemed like a reasonable choice. However, as I reached a traffic light and realized the same man was still tailing me, I knew something was amiss. I decided to sit near the security personnel for about 10–15 minutes. Once he was gone, I resumed my journey. Heading towards Central Railway Station to take the exit towards Chalmer Street, I was startled to see the same man reappear out of nowhere, following closely behind me. It was no coincidence. There was a kind and large man in front of me, so I approached him urgently. I explained my situation and my fear that I was being followed. He agreed to accompany me back to my hotel, and as a result, the man following me retreated in the opposite direction. I also had to walk through a darker pavement with not many streetlights and people. It was a moment of relief, knowing that if I hadn't taken action to protect myself, something terrible might have happened. The lesson here is clear. If you ever feel like you're being stalked or followed, at any time of the day or night, do not ignore it. Prioritize your safety above all else. Trust your gut feeling and stay alert to your surroundings. In my case, I believe that kind of stranger was placed there to save my life. Let's look out for each other and stay safe out there, ladies. Traveling solo is a wonderful adventure, but it's essential to be vigilant and take measures to protect ourselves. Story 4: Shady Transport Service in China. Back when I was 17 and on exchange, my friends and I decided to take a circuit trip to see more of China. We lived in the north, Harbin, so the first step was to take a train down to Beijing and meet up with some other exchange kids. Since we were underage and there were strict rules about travel, we told our host families we were visiting our friends in a town just a few hours even farther north called Jiamusi. So the three of us get dropped off at the train station 15 minutes before the train to Jiamusi, planning to wait there for a few hours before the Beijing train boards. Long story short, we get a little cocky about time and end up running to our gate just 10 minutes before the train's scheduled to leave. Because it's China, where timeliness can go a bit too far, the train is already gone. The gate manager just laughs at us, but a young-looking guy comes over and asks to look at our tickets. We hand them over, and he takes off running. We give chase, to the laughs of the gate manager and others in the area, but this dude's too fast and we lose him. So there we were sitting in the train station. We can't go home, because it's not like we can say, "Oh, we missed the train to Jiamusi hours ago and just came back now." We couldn't afford new tickets, so we stalked the station for the guy before. In true teenage fashion, we sat ourselves down and moped. Suddenly this very shady older woman leans over and whispers in my ear, "You want to go to Beijing? I can get you there for 1/2 the price of that train." Fool us once, right? So, we politely tell her we're not sure we're interested. She gets assertive, grabs me by the arm and starts pulling me up, saying she'll take us to Beijing. My friend wrestles me back and is now way beyond suspicious. He asks her to come with him as he goes from stranger to stranger, telling our situation and asking if this woman sounds trustworthy. Some said yes, and some said no. Well, that was good enough for us. We follow her out of the station to an alley behind it. We stop outside a convenience store, where three big guys ask to take our bags. We're now very uncomfortable and try to resist, but they snatch them and take them to the back. We're trying to ask the lady what's going on, but she just keeps telling us they work for her. It'll be fine. Sit here for 45 minutes, and then gives us each a lollipop to bide our time. At that point, we were really up crap creek, so what are you going to do? We sat down and sucked on our candy in very dejected silence. 45 minutes pass, more people are milling around. Shady lot by the look of most of them, and most didn't speak Mandarin or English. My friend starts crying. She cried easily, but it was stressful, so the lady keeps shoving convenience store snacks on us and not leaving until we eat them. We started joking about how nice it was that the thieves and kidnappers gave us candy. Then, out of freaking nowhere, I don't know how it even fit in the alley, comes a bus. There are no seats inside, but beds stacked in threes. One of the men opened the bottom hatch, and there were our bags. We're told to take our shoes off, given slippers and a blanket. Turns out it was a commuter bus, actually a lot of what I imagine the night bus in Harry Potter was like. Over the trip, we end up having a ball with the other passengers, one of which was a very drunk worker from the far-off Uyghur province who sang folk songs the whole way. Came into Beijing with a great story. Story 5. Been in India for a month and so far, I have shat my pants 3 times. One of the times I was staying at a guest house run by a Brahmin family. I was about 30 seconds away from the house when it became apparent that I was going to crap liquid and there was no stopping it. I shat my pants as I reached the doorstep. My entire right leg was completely brown, and when the host answered the door I had to explain what happened while crap slowly dripped onto his doorstep. Furthermore, I was drunk, which made it look as though I got so drunk I shat myself, which was not the case. As I walked upstairs to my room I left deposits of my crap throughout his hallway and on the stairs. I then shat myself again in the morning. However, I had pulled my pants down trying to make it to the toilet, so I basically just took a giant shit on the floor in my pants. The guy was not happy, and his family was unwelcoming after the incident. He told me this had never happened at his house before. I believe him. For me, every shat in India has been an emergency. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more crazy stories.